Understanding Gordon Pask's conversation theory. Gordon Pask was a British inventor and polymath. A polymath is a person who has knowledge in many different subjects and can apply that knowledge to solve problems. Imagine sitting down for a meaningful conversation with a friend. As you share ideas, ask questions, and explain concepts to each other, something magical happens. You both learn. This simple act of exchanging thoughts is at the heart of Gordon Pask's conversation theory, a fascinating framework that explores how learning happens through dialogue. Conversation theory is a part of a broader scientific field called cybernetics. This is a very fancy term, but it's simply the study of how systems, whether biological, mechanical, or social, regulate and control themselves through feedback. Think of it like your body adjusting to the temperature changes or a thermostat keeping a room at a comfortable temperature. Cybernetics was pioneered by mathematician Norbert Wiener, who called it the study of control and communication in the animal and machine. So how does this relate to learning? Gordon Pask believed that learning is a recursive, ongoing process that happens through conversations about a subject. These conversations can happen in different types of language. Natural language is everyday speech, like when you chat with friends. Object language is a more specialized way of communicating, like using math formulas in science class. Meta languages talk about the structure or rules of other languages. For example, how grammar works in English. Pask always emphasized the importance of representing subject matter in clear structures so learners can see and understand what's being taught. This makes it easier to grasp complex ideas. This diagram illustrates how learning happens through conversations by focusing on two types of questions: why and how. The why questions help explain the relationships between two different ideas, while the how questions focus on demonstrations, model building, and problem solving. These interactions are interconnected, showing that understanding concepts and applying them go hand in hand. The process takes place in a dynamic space, while learners actively engage in asking, explaining, and creating to build deeper knowledge. He identifies two types of learning strategies: serialists and holists. Serialists prefer a step-by-step approach, focusing on one detail at a time. Holists like to see the big picture first, understanding the overall concept before getting into the details. One of the most important parts of conversation theory is a method called teach-back. This is when someone teaches another person what they've learned. Pask believed that this process solidifies understanding because if you can explain it to someone else, you truly know it. If you can teach it, you know it. The idea of teach-back has had a huge influence on how educators design learning experiences. It can be applied to any subject, from math and science to art and history. Pask didn't develop this theory alone. He collaborated with brilliant minds like Bernard Scott, Dionysius Kalanitzis, Robin McKinnon Wood, and Paul Pangaru. Together, they created a framework that continues to shape educational practices today. Some examples of conversation theory that can be applied in an English classroom is Socratic seminars. They are great examples of conversion theory in action. Students engage in structured discussions by asking and answering open-ended questions about a text. They explore why an author made certain choices, conceptual understanding, and how those choices affect meaning or reader interpretation. Practical application. The recursive nature of the conversation where ideas build upon each other through dialogue, aligns perfectly with Gordon Pask's idea that learning occurs through ongoing exchanges and conversation. Additionally, when students explain their reasoning or teach back to peers, they reinforce their understanding, embodying Pask's key principles. Peer editing is also an example of conversation theory. After reviewing a classmate's essay, students explain what the essay does well and where it can improve. They justified why certain changes might enhance clarity and describe how specific revisions could strengthen the argument. You could also see conversation theory in character interviews. In groups, students could role play as characters from a novel or a time in history. Peers ask questions about why the character made certain decisions and how those choices shaped the story. They deepen their understanding of the character and why they do what they do. You could also see conversation theory in art critique sessions. After creating artwork, students present their pieces to the class, discussing why they chose specific techniques and how they executed them. Classmates provide constructive feedback, spark meaningful conversations. So remember, let them talk, especially if they're on task in what you're learning. They might just be learning something new or teaching someone else.